Yeah, I'm really happy to be here and glad to be back in the color position. It's been a while since I can actually drop my voice and act like a stone-faced color caster without showing any emotion.
It's great. Also, I realized I was muted for like 10 seconds. So that apologize. Everybody, I'm Pyrotechnics, he's Clement. You all knew that, but now you know it again, and it's wonderful. But before we get further into today's broadcast, I do want to give a shout out and a thanks for our sponsors today. It is, of course, CTBC Bank, China Airlines, and Changhua Telecom. And, of course, our organizers as well, Riot Games, Garena, and Carry Live, without whom the broadcast literally couldn't happen. So thanks to you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for feeding my family. Big thanks.
Might as well. It's good stuff. But yeah, Clement, we saw some crazy stuff yesterday. I'm the newcomer to the PCS. I wanted to ask you what like the biggest surprises, the biggest standouts to you were. I think I might know some of the answers, but I'm curious what you had to say.
Oh, yesterday was our first glimpse into 11.13. We got no upsets according to the spring standings, but we did see a couple of interesting picks come out here and there. Impunity definitely super interesting with Moonblack on the roster, bringing out that Heimerdinger, and of course BME Esports, Ruby sticking to his guns, not playing the meta, and going for the Vladimir. So a lot of teams showcasing their own flavor.
Yeah, burst meta, what burst meta? Certainly not here, at least coming out of the mid lane for some of these players. Really excited to see if they continue to bring that style, if teams really adapt to them. Here, of course, on 11.13, it's definitely shaking some things up across the Rift, across the regions. But here in the PCS, some of those players still sticking to their guns.
Yeah, we have a lot of unique picks. Of course, the general meta still looks the same. Akali and Xin Zhao seem to be the go-to bans for every team in the tournament so far. Just taking a look at the standings, not a huge surprise here, but PSG still a cut above the rest.
Certainly, and it's easy to anyone watching exactly why that is the case. This team just outclasses the competition. Of course, their first matchup, a rematch of the spring finals up against Megabank Beyond Gaming, and Beyond looks pretty good, all things considered, but it's just so hard to compete with the big boys. And we'll have to see how things go today, of course, because we do have our schedule, all 6 games up on your screen right now. BME Esports will be taking on J-Team for the first match of the day, followed by Alpha Esports, and once again, the returning champions PSG Talon. J-Team returns for a bout against Liab Esports, and you can see the rest of it. I'm excited for all these matches, but Clement, is there one you've got your eye on in particular?
It definitely has to be Megabank Beyond Gaming versus Machi Esports. This is our lower bracket finals match, and honestly, Beyond Gaming, this is the team they sort of upset to go into the finals and really break into the top 2. So a lot of rivalry between these two teams. I would say they're really like the trifecta of the PCS, Machi Esports, Beyond Gaming, and Megabank Beyond Gaming, and of course PSG.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams like really at that top level, like not quite in first place. That's still pretty much occupied by PSG Talon until something changes. But in the meantime, everybody really trying to fight for those top playoff spots. But what I do love about this league, of course, is that you only need to make top 8 to get into the playoffs. It's a very, very big bracket, so the teams have plenty of time to improve, even if they just squeak in at the end.
Definitely true, and we have to talk about, the stakes at the very end of the split will be, if you're first place, you get seated directly into groups, and if you're second place, you get a play-in seat at Worlds as well. So most eyes are still going to be on who gets the summer finals.
Now, it's obviously way too early to try and tell. I think PSG Talon very much a favorite going into this, and again, until further notice. But is Beyond, even with just that one game, is it too early to tell, or do you think that maybe there's other teams that might be able to challenge them at the moment?
I'll be honest, I felt like Beyond looked extremely rough in their first game. The draft was kind of all over the place, and they still showcase an inability to play aggressive early games, which has been their biggest weakness in spring as well. They have one of the longest game times. They tend to drag on despite drafting for early game, so that's going to be a big issue, and until they fix that, I'm not sure I'm fully on board with Beyond Gaming hype train.
Ooh, okay. Well, we'll have to see if they can make you a believer eventually. But, they'll be playing a little bit later today. I do want to get into the matchup that we've got at hand here. It's going to be BME Esports taking on J-Team. Now, both of them had some interesting matches yesterday. J-Team in particular had a very, very long game against Machi X at the end there. It did kind of feel like they were fumbling around a little bit.
Yeah, I think J-Team were the team that was hardest hit by the meta. You think about Mission, he's definitely control mage first. And if you think about Hana, he's more of a utility jungle. And that's just not the case in this meta. Your junglers have to be carries. You have to go on things like Rumble. You have to play Diana. And I just don't think they fit the meta particularly well. I kind of predicted them to take the largest slide. And Boom Esports, on the other hand, I feel like they are much more comfortable on this patch. So we'll see if Boom Esports can actually overtake J-Team here.
Yeah, and Boom, one of those teams that certainly decided that they didn't have to necessarily play the meta the way that everyone else was expecting. I mean, that Vladimir seemed to catch everyone by surprise. I know you went back and did a little bit of digging. I was checking it out myself, and I don't think we really saw Vladimir anywhere else in professional League of Legends on this patch, or honestly for a while, as far as I can tell. That seemed to come out of nowhere.
If you look at all the leagues combined and you count all of the challenger leagues together, there is something like about 2,000 games competitively, and that was our first Vlad. So that just kind of tells you how rare that pick actually is. And wow, Alex actually starting today.
Oh, we're going to have Alex back in the jungle role. So, of course, Boom Esports, have a cycling jungle there. Alex and Holo are going to be able to sub between each other. But we were just talking about Ruby, that man in the mid lane, to see if he can continue to buck the trend of those bursty assassins in the mid and play things like the Vladimir. But looking at the rest of the lineup, rounding it out, we have Rocky in the top side, Alex, as you mentioned, the starting jungler with Ruby in mid, and then Wako and Pop. Apart from Ruby, is Alex a big standout in your mind? I know we were talking a little bit before the broadcast about this guy.
Yeah, this guy has a lot of competitive experience. He was on AHQ, he went to LPL, and was actually a trainee for EDG for quite a while. So if you look at the pedigree and his experience, he should be a cut above Holo, who only played on a Hong Kong Attitude in terms of PCS level. So Alex coming in, I think, is a huge boom, and this guy is an absolute highlight reel. His Rengar, his Lee Sin, has left a lasting impression on a lot of the old LMS fans.
Absolutely. Now, thinking about Alex as well, we talking about that Lee Sin, that has been one of the champions that has been flexing around a little bit, because while it's been a powerful solo lane pickup, even with the E-nerfs coming in here, we have seen some of the players here in the PCS flex it into the jungle when they don't need one of those more AP-oriented junglers like the Diana. Do you think Alex will, well, I'll ask you about that in a minute, because we do want to talk about J-Team, their opponents today. Rest up in the top side, it's going to be Hana in the jungle, Mission in the mid, Lil V, and Woody will round out your bottom side. Now, I think Mission is a name, if you're new to the PCS, Mission's a name you're still going to recognize. Who else do you have your eye on for this particular roster, Clement?
For this one, I think Res is going to have a really good split. His game one was terrific, even though he was playing something that was a little bit off meta in the Hail of Blades Gnar. That was really interesting to see. But I think, this is definitely the meta for him. He's more of a fighter player compared to Driver, who is more of a weak side top laner. So if you look at the meta in general, where I don't think Hana is going to fit the meta very well, you're going to have to get more output from Rest. And also Lil V, this is not an AD carry meta. AD carry, I would say, is probably the most irrelevant role out of the 5. So I'm really looking to Rest to kind of buttress up this team and keep their hopes at maintaining that trifecta position within the PCS.
Yeah, top side focus and seeing what Hana can do to really try and get those lanes ahead as well. If the bottom plays weak side, do you think that on the opposite side for Boom, that'll enable Pop to just get a lot of roams off early, or do you think he'll try to help Wako just dominate that lane?
Well, it's interesting to see what they go for in the meta. They could still definitely play lane dominant, but obviously the picks like Kalista and Varus, they do drop off a lot harder compared to something like the Kai'Sa or Samira that has been running around in the spring meta. We're going to take a close look at that, but so far the ban picks are pretty standard. Nobody expects Mission's Lucian to go through, and everyone has been banning Zinda.
Yeah, and speaking of Mission, you have been talking a little bit, again, pre-broadcast, we were mentioning it. Mission, maybe a little rough for him right now in this meta in particular, because he is more known for those control mages, his Orianas and things like that, and you're not going to get to see that at the moment. As Viego is banned out, that's a champion that made it through a lot yesterday.
Yeah, we have the typical suite of tier 1 champions just being taken out. But what I'm really looking at here is Thresh and Renekton being left open. Those are kind of the big two that are left. Renekton is pretty much globally banned, especially in the LPL, but we'll see if that trend continues in the PCS. Not actually going through. Diana, definitely a carry jungle. We see Karsa with a great job on that. Alex following in his footsteps. On the other hand, Hana going for Lee Sin and Rest going for the Gwen. So I do see J-Team trying to focus more on just getting Rest ahead. while Boom Esports definitely going to index into Alex being that carry.
Try to carry out of that jungle. We'll see what Boom end up picking up here for the next rotation. So the Lee Sin being locked is interesting to me because they'd already shown the top side, so there's no flex. I guess they were just confident in what they wanted. Hovering on the Varus right now for Wako. See if they end up picking it up, and it is going to get locked in.
This is what we expect from Wako. He likes to play early aggressive champions. So I think the poke comp really fits him quite well. Also allows Pop to roam, like we mentioned. On the flip side, J-Team, if they do show the LeBlanc here, you know, it's one of the best mid-jungles that you can potentially draft, but it's also something that I'm not sure J-Team can pilot to maximum efficiency. You really need great synergy between your mid-jungle if you're going to go for something that is this aggressive, but also falls off really hard in the late game. So it's kind of a test to see this. I'm actually not that sold that Mission and Hana can actually pull it off. They've not been known to have the greatest synergy, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's early on in the season, you know, plenty of time to try and build that up, and you can only do so much in the scrims. But we get into the second ban phase, and there's going to be a Lissandra removed from the pool. Keeping in mind, of course, Ruby did not at all subscribe to Burst and decided to go for a Vladimir instead. There's that Thresh ban. It does not make it through the second time around.
Yeah, I expected J-Team to actually go for Thresh a little bit earlier. Woody has shown a bit of proficiency on it, and it really allows them to play more hyper carries like the Aphelios. So definitely going to take that out for Boom Esports. No surprise here. I feel like this draft J-Team, just by going for such a top side heavy draft, has really revealed their cards. Maybe it's not even about how good Mission can snowball. Maybe it's just all about how much he can leave lane and actually link up with Rest. This is something I do want to see. I think it is kind of the future pivot for J-Team on this 11.13 patch.
Yeah, look for the Rest carry and see how much they can get kills shoveled straight into the scissors. For Boom Esports, they've got one more ban remaining. Will they continue to try and hit Woody's pool? They do with that Nautilus ban.
It's kind of
instantly out of luck.
Yeah, I don't think Nautilus is actually Woody's best champion. I think Nautilus is actually one of his weaker ones. I'd be perfectly happy to let him have that one. But yeah, Boom Esports just making sure they can't roam that much and going to take Alistar instead. So we do have, you know, you could argue that most engaged champions are off the table, but I also see Alistar as being a great combo piece right here. Wow, Boom Esports going for almost the exact same comp. Yeah, as their day one comp. This is the Wombo combo comp. If you get that Alistar stun, you get Moonfall, and you follow it up with Hemo Plague, that's an instant team wipe.
Yeah, just going ahead and giving it back to Ruby. If it ain't broke, don't fix it so far. 100% win rate for Vladimir. One day of the PCS. J-Team got one more pick to go. The hover. Yeah, we saw that Draven hover. I wanted to, but it's going to be Ezreal. They're going to play it safe.
You chicken out of that. I'm so sad. Come on, let's go. Draven's actually playable on this patch. He's one of the few champions I feel like has pretty decent matchups into things like Aphelios. He can bully out a lot of these quote-unquote lane-dominant champions like Varus and Kalista, but they didn't go for it. I'm a little bit disappointed. This is sort of the safe option and the expected answer.
So it does look like playing safe when they can on the map, where they have the weaker bottom side, but also really focusing on the top to try and get Rest ahead. Of course, Rest with very aggressive summoner spells, no teleport, or excuse me, no flash, ignite. Well, we're going to have to see how it all works out. I mean, Clement, whose comp do you like more? I think I might know the answer to this one.
I do favor the right side a little bit more. I feel like they're playing more on the meta. It's about tempo. You go towards the top side. Bottom side is definitely the weak side of the map, like you mentioned. Varus can get that push a little bit earlier against Ezreal, but we do have to mention that Volibear has been considered sort of the a counter to the Gwen pick. You know, when she wants to fight those champions that can't really deal with her inside her hollowed mist. But Volibear happens to be one of those champions that can fight her in the mist. He has burst damage, so if he doesn't want to continue the trade and let her get those extra snips or 1,000 cuts, he can just back out quite easily. So, you know, it really is a matchup where I feel like they will have to invest a bit more resources into the top side to make sure Rust can actually be that split pushing threat. Or if we just look at the champion picks themselves, then you don't really expect this Gwen to have that much impact.
Yeah, and I feel like that maybe they're putting a lot of eggs in that basket, but it is possible that we see something out of Mission here on this LeBlanc. You did mention a lot of roaming. This is a very mobile team, right? I mean, you look at everybody across the board, and they can get around maybe Woody will have a little harder time than the rest, but it does feel like JT maybe want to get things going a little faster. I know typically they kind of tend to sit back and let the game come to them, but I don't think Boom's going to allow that.
Yeah, this is a really interesting draft from J-Team. It definitely feels a bit more experimental. I don't think they draft this way if they're going up against Machi or going up against guys like PSG. This is definitely trying to extend their repertoire. And I would say that I do favor their draft. I think Boom Esports, if you look at the mobility on J-Team, it's really impossible to conjure up a situation where J-Team will allow themselves to get 3 or 4 man wombo combo. I think that's pretty much impossible to wombo combo Lee Sin, LeBlanc, and Ezreal all together. And that just takes away so much of that AoE potential from Boom Esports. Boom Esports, they need perfect execution to really deal with this composition or get the ideal scenario that their composition allows them to do.
Well, we'll see if they can pull off an extremely difficult combination for themselves. But for now, we are loading on to the Summoner's Rift for the first game here of the PCS Summer. Week 1, Day 2. Boom Esports on the blue side up against J-Team on the red. And so far, standard line of scrimmage, nothing crazy. No cheeky invades. That's okay.
So the thing I'm looking at here is definitely the jungle pathing early on. You do have a lot of crowd control from Rocky, and we do have to mention that Russ is not bringing Flash. So I do expect Hana to have to start on the bottom side and actually protect Rest a little bit. This could be a very volatile matchup if he doesn't show himself on the first clear. However, it does look like, okay, he is transiting towards the bot lane. That makes a lot more sense in my mind. And taking a look at the runes right here, once again, we're going to have the electrocute Vladimir.
Yeah, why not? You know, again, it worked for Ruby until that changes. I don't see him picking something different. But J-Team are going for a little bit of a brush hide here. And if anybody wanders into that trap where they come to pop, could be in a little bit of trouble. See if they can get a summoner off him to start the game. Does get the knock-up. And he's able to walk away for free. But now they know that the red buff's happening, so this should just be a little bit of vertical jungle. Or horizontal jungle, I suppose.
I do think that Lee Sin is actually going to try to go red to red. And if he does that, that completely eliminates Volibear's capability to kind of go into his side of the jungle. And you can see J-Team has a setup already. They do have that ward on their own Raptor ramp, so it does mean that they will know if Diana is going up there. Well, like we said once more, their best scenario is to actually get Rest ahead, so I don't actually think that they want to do straight vertical jungle with Diana on the top side. That seems to be actually a very unfavorable trade for them, so I do want to see Hana actually try and rotate back towards that lane. But in the meantime, Rest level 1 on this Gwen. The slip and slash is just so good level 1 that you almost always force the enemy top laner to respect your zone at that point.
And Rocky at level 1, definitely few options to deal with that. But as the game goes, we'll have to see how well of a counter this will prove to be. Meanwhile, Hana gonna run straight into Alex in his own jungle. Does connect with the Sonic Wave. A little bit of action here. Level disadvantage, but Alex not able to react quite as easily. And it does seem like the name of the game for J-Team is keep that Diana down.
Yeah, that was a really smart move from J-Team overall. Well, like we said, once again, the main early game objective is to protect Rest from getting ganked and getting his lane snowballed against him. If you're not running Flash, it's actually very easy to just lose out on this top lane and be irrelevant the entire game. So I love what J-Team did. Late invade into tracking enemy jungler, and their setup was very clear that they did not want to trade vertically. They just wanted to make sure that they could do Lee Sin red to red, and you could see Hana getting the better of Alex there. Even though he was level 2 versus level 3, he is that Lee Sin, and he did wait until Alex used his entire rotation. So very well done there. He had a bit of a bot lane scuffle here.
Yeah, Wako really just stepping up and trying to punish the positioning of Lil V there. And, you know, talking about him being a bit more of an aggressive player, whereas J-Team going to try to play on that weak side. However, they will get a bit of assistance. It looks like Hana might be coming down. If he does walk through the lane, they do manage to go in. 2-man knockup, one knockup there, but they look for the damage onto Wako. Lil V able to just turn onto Pop, and we might have first blood. Ooh. Hana flashing in for it.
Yeah, really nice E-flash right there. Hana showing some Lee Sin mechanics that we didn't really even know he had. This was a pretty smart move overall. And Wako...
And now we're done. Woody very low, though. Alex, he wants his own kill at Hana. He was not out just yet, but not close enough to help save the day. It ends up being a trade of the supports.
Yeah, another good move coming here by Alex. They didn't expect him to be there. If you look at the map, his Krug camp is just about to come up. So J-Team thought that Diana would only be on the top side, but he makes the rotation and picks up the Krugs that were counter jungled instead. That's a really smart rotation from Alex, and he's just in the right place at the right time.
It's a good sense of where he needs to be on the map, and it's that kind of thing that's going to help out Boom Esports in this game. I didn't really expect to be covering the action in the bottom lane as much this early, to tell you the truth, Clement, but looks like that's going to be the case, even though we're only a couple minutes into this one. 1-for-1 in kills as Rest gets the lane shoved into him. Rocky, not a whole lot of trouble, considering for a little while he was 2 levels down, but that was just because he couldn't contest Rest up front and center.
Yeah, I think he should still be fine in this lane. He did get the counter pick. In this sense, the Gwen was the first pick on J-Team's side. So, you know, if you get the counter, you kind of expect you to yourself to do okay in lane. But so far, this lead from Rest is much larger than I expected it would be. I definitely don't think he should be this far up. So, you know, that kind of goes to show you that Rest, in terms of his caliber as a top laner, he has been one of the better fighters in the PCS, and it definitely shows in this early laning.
And this isn't a league that's just chock full of aggressive top laners, too. Like, you get a lot of practical experience when you're playing top lane in this league. Hana making his move once again into the jungle, tagging in with Woody. And it looks like they will start off on that Ocean Dragon. A couple of missing pings from Boom. I think they know something's up here, but they're not in a position to contest it.
It was actually really good pathing from Hana. He did the surprise gank onto the bot lane without touching his red side, and then he came out and did a red to bottom clear for the objective, while they had vision on Alex in the top side. So very safe, very nice moves all over the board. Again, I want to emphasize, this is not typically how Lee Sin plus LeBlanc is played. Usually you expect the Lee Sin to be 24/7 around LeBlanc, but J-Team is adding their own flair in here. I'm a little bit worried that LeBlanc is not going to be able to contribute that much if she isn't snowballed. But this is J-Team. This is the way they play, and you know, it definitely, you can tell that they're not exactly mid-jungle priority.
It's the it's the classic poke LeBlanc strategy. Although it does seem to be working. Every time I look at a Vladimir health bar, I have to remind myself, actually, it's not really that much of a problem. Because he's just going to heal it right back up. But this has been a pretty quiet mid lane, all things considered. And if you are just tuning in, yes, that is in fact a Vladimir you see. And yeah, that's a Ruby thing.
It's kind of ridiculous that Vladimir is actually playable. The thing about Electrocute Vladimir is he doesn't really have a teamfight presence. He doesn't really have the move speed to go into the backline. And we haven't seen any Vladimirs after the phase rush nerfs. Ruby just tried to plant his face onto mission. Ooh, this is going to be really close.
Ooh, that is... he's going to be okay. That was really, really close to the calculation. Hana going to intercept Alex here, and Woody is also there, and they just stick onto him. Easy peasy. Pop tries to come in to save his life, but it's too little too late. They even get a stun off, and my goodness, Hana's running wild.
Yeah, I didn't expect this from Hana. This is probably his best early game we've seen in quite a while. Alex, definitely... That was a very questionable pathing to go directly from the lane towards the bottom side brush while the support was missing.
Speaking of
it was a little bit careless, in all honesty.
A bit of a dive onto Wako. Yeah, I think they're going to try and snowball this best they can. Really
Good
nowhere
dodge.
for that Varus to go. He just tries to shred Woody's health bar with the help of the tower, but very good collapse, and J-Team all of a sudden finding themselves with a sizable gold lead.
I am so impressed by this early game from J-Team. It was really clean, they protected Rest, and they were able to punish Alex multiple times just with the early tracking going on. So J-Team in a commanding lead at this position, at this point in time. And, you know, Boom Esports, I feel like their team composition, a lot of things need to be working for them. This top lane's not working out. Their Wombo combo has to wait until 6, so I think Boom Esports, at some point, they have to force themselves onto a Drake fight in order to get themselves into a Wombo combo position. If you don't have all of your pieces together for a 5v5, this comp doesn't actually do that much, so I expect them to try and force objectives pretty soon.
I really don't think they expected to find themselves in this much of a deficit early on, and, you know, they had some good lanes that they had picked for, but just the moves on the map from J-Team have just been so good. And meanwhile, quietly, Rest is just continuing to hard shove wave after wave after wave. He doesn't need to get the kill onto Volibear because he can just keep building that advantage and just snip down all the minions.
And a lot of this is coming out from the tracking that they're doing on Alex. If you look at the bottom lane right now, Alex has just passed through 2 wards repeatedly, and Rest felt comfortable enough to actually just go and proxy farm. So this definitely not what you want to see out of your top lane counter, and Rocky might just be going down.
Oh my goodness, he has to burn the flash and his ultimate just to get out of there. That's not a good look if you're BME's top laner. Meanwhile, though, there is a contest onto Rift Herald, and Hana's like, wait a minute, I wanted that. And I don't even know who got it. But Hana does manage to get out alive. It looks like, yeah, BME, they finished the smite.
I gotta say, that was a bit of an overreach from Hana. He could have waited a little bit and got that for free because the top laner was obviously gone. But he tried to do too much at the same time and got punished for it. So Boom Esports is going to pick up the Herald. They did over-rotate, though. If you look at the bottom side, Pop actually didn't manage to do anything in the top side, and they also just let Turret play there. So a lot of this is going to go into Lil V's pocket. He's going to be a little bit more accelerated than usual.
Lil V's going to be pretty happy with that turn of events. At the same time, despite the mistake on Rift Herald, J-Team looking pretty strong at this 10-minute mark. A Dragon in their pocket as well. Good map presence. The ward coverage is there. And yeah, Mission, I hate to tell you this, buddy. I don't know if you're going to be able to kill Ruby anytime soon, but I do appreciate that you keep trying.
Yeah, that's definitely what you want to do as Mission side on the LeBlanc, but we have to remember that Vladimir, it is an old counterpick to the LeBlanc. It's very difficult to actually kill the Vlad. He can dodge out on your chains. He has a ton of sustain, and he can outpush you in lane as well. So I don't expect much to happen here, but we'll see what missions LeBlanc can do without being accelerated when it comes to mid-late game.
Yeah, I'm really curious what they end up doing with this pick, because as you've mentioned a couple of times now, they have not played around it in any way whatsoever. They're just leaving that mid lane as like kind of a neutral game. Pop gets caught on the Sonic Wave. Not going to follow that one through as they don't land anything else on top of it. Woody and him have been roaming through Boom Esports jungle, and they'll start off on this Mountain Dragon instead. This one's a little riskier, as it's pretty obvious what they're doing, and they're going to try to pull it out of the pit.
I do also want to mention that Rest does have his TP in the red side jungle, so J-Team could just attempt for a full-on engage.
They're trying for it right now. That's a good 3-man pull as they manage to get a little bit of lockdown, but the damage turn here. Lil V in a very safe position is able to take down Alex, and the rest of the team from Boom still chasing through. They managed to find Mission. It's a 1-for-1 trade, but all of a sudden Rest has joined the fray, and Boom do not want that.
Yeah, I think the main problem with that play right there was that Ruby and Rocky were not in position. You really want to get the Hemo Plague layered on top of the Moonfall. That's your Wombo combo. And if we look at this play once more, you can see Alex goes in a little bit prematurely. The AoE ultimate doesn't actually come out from Vladimir until much later. And when Ruby finally does get the ult, he only tags one person with it. So it looked good from Alex at the start, but honestly, this is not how you want to play the Wombo combo. The 3 big ultimates coming in from Wako, Ruby, and Alex were very, very much apart, and that team fight did not come together.
No, I like that they were looking for something, but it's just they're not on the same page about when they're going in, where they need to be to do it. So they unfortunately get a little bit punished. They will pop that Eye of the Rift Herald up in the top side, but that should just get the 1 charge as Mission is here to try and defend it. See if he gets enough damage to actually clear through. Yes, easily is able to do that, and there's a lot of members, well, only 2 of them stacked towards the top side. A lot of pings, I should say, flying as they were potentially looking to rotate, but for what? I cannot guess. Woody nearly gotten caught out there, but he's fine. Hana looks to tag in. Sonic Wave splits the uprights, and, well, they look for Ruby, but he just walks away from everything.
I'm not really sure why Boom Esports are face-checking this area of the map. They just showed multiple members on the top side, and honestly, you don't expect teams to do this until their other members have rotated. Now, Hana might be in a little bit of trouble here. I think he should be fine at the very end. But honestly, that sort of play was... Ooh, there we go.
Yeah, Woody, he's the one who's not fine. Although, Mission and Hana going in to try and even the odds on this. Hana manages to pick up the first kill onto Alex before Woody even goes down. Meanwhile, do they have any extra damage left in the tank? Looking for Ruby. Double knockup by Pop, and in comes Wako. These fights are messy. They are everywhere, but J-Team are winning them.
Yeah, really good coordination coming in from J-Team. They also rotate their bot lane a lot faster. Goodbye, Wako!
Yep, Lil V, kill taken on that one. Kill secured, you might say. 8-3 here, and we're not even 15 minutes on the clock. J-Team just better execution, and as you mentioned, Clement, they don't have to pull off a wombo combo. They got a lot more versatility.
Yeah, it's really nice to see J-Team actually getting these leads. They get the first chunk out at the start. They do get that free flash from Vladimir, which is incredibly crucial in this team fight. And when it comes to the follow-up here, I think it's just a rotational thing from J-Team. You can see Ezreal able to impact the fight with that True Shot Barrage a lot earlier, and he also just arrives far earlier than Wako. Wako doesn't even throw his ult out until very, very late into this team fight. He's pretty much already trying to get away from the scene. So once more, I feel like it's a bit of an overreach actually coming out from Boom Esports' side. They didn't need to force this one that heavily. And man, oh man, I just want to say that if J-Team win this, I would not be surprised to see Hana as an MVP. This is probably the best aggressive early game that I've seen from Hana ever. I can't think of a time in spring where I was more impressed with Hana's early game.
Yeah, I mean, this Lee Sin is really just everywhere he needs to be on the map and more, and it has been great to see. Hasn't focused at all on mission, but he's been just about everywhere else, and he's picking up a fair share of those kills. Great kill participation, and I think you're right, it is definitely in the running. As there's a teleport here into the back, Mission looking to cut off these three members of Boom, and there goes the Solar Flare cleansed out by Wako, but the Sonic Wave connects. Hana getting the kick, not back, but down, and Wako gets just melted here as they will take down Pop, and Lil V picking up his third kill of the game.
Oh, that was such a 200 IQ play coming in from Hana. He did the Dragon's Raid just to separate the Alistar from his AD carry in Wako and make sure that Mission had that clear opening to go in without getting any of the crowd control from Alistar. So really well done there. Nice alley-oop. We do see the gold lead not really that far apart, though. If you look at the 10-3, you would think Boom Esports would be further behind. But they have actually kept up really well in farm for Ruby and farm for Alex. These two guys have just been 24/7 farm nonstop, and they know they're the centerpiece for the wombo combo. So I would say that Boom Esports, despite the kill deficit, are still in striking distance. They could still pull off a massive team fight in front of the objective and claw this one back.
The game is certainly far from over in this case. However, there is a nice window here for J-Team. You can see some of the item differentials with the Mythics coming in and completed compared to what Boom have got for the most part. Boom are sniffing for a play. Hana getting tagged by Alex's Diana. We'll see if they can make anything happen. It's such a dangerous thing to do, and they might have to try and contest this. This is going to be Soul Point on the Infernal. If Boom could claim that, it would go a long way toward their team fight. Now Mission cut off by Pop. Dragon going low here. Pop already down to half his health, and the smite goes down. They just waited too long, and in goes Woody. They're going to look for the combo of their own, and Alex going to be shot through the heart very quickly as Rest takes him down. Ruby pulling away, but stunned up by the chains and nowhere to go as Lil V takes yet another kill. Decisive by JT.
That ramp is always the most dangerous part of the map if you're the blue side team trying to go into a Dragon team fight. And Woody didn't have the ultimate right there. He was a very, very tender beef loin in this scenario. So J-Team Mission able to pick him off with no trouble, and that was the instant go button. I don't think Pop even got any of his abilities off. He just face checked that brush and he just died. You really shouldn't talk about a tender beef loin. You don't have your ult. that was kind of a massive misplay from Pop, and the rest of his team just has to scatter straight after that. That's gonna also be Baron for J-Team.
My goodness, yeah, they're honestly running a masterclass right now. It is a little bit early. The Rift Herald going down. JC managing to clear out the map. No, but I mean, the way this game's going, Clement, you'd be forgiven for thinking Baron was up and available.
Yeah, I was like, third Drake. Oh, it's J-Team. That's probably Baron. And I just saw them.
Doesn't feel like 18 minutes. We're in a time warp.
I saw the empowered recall, and I was like, well, that has to be Baron, right?
Yeah, for sure. I still think it's the gold lead certainly could be a lot bigger, but J-Team are starting to crack this one open a little bit. And as I mentioned earlier, some of the item leads they had for themselves now starting to be equalized a little bit on some of those mythics. But I want to see Boom come online, and we just have not seen the level of coordination required to pull off that big wombo combo.
Yeah, I don't even think J-Team are going to allow them the chance for a wombo combo. Like, J-Team are just so flexible at this point, and I'm not sure if Ruby wants to go for that pick. I don't think they win the 2v2 at this point. A good thing that Ruby actually thinks twice about it. I think they might have spotted Hana on the rotation, so Ruby doesn't fall for his own trap.
Yeah, Mission just pulls the sweeper there, and Ruby's like, the jig is up. Pops out of the brush and just bares his fangs. Surprise Brush Vampire. But not very scary if you're Mission right now. Who's having, despite a quiet laning phase, he's starting to have a pretty good game. 3-1-7. Picked up a handful of those kills. Got some gold in his pocket. He's got Hana here to help him.
Ruby,
Mission's pretty happy.
Again, just retreating to his tower. He's not going to fall for any of this stuff. And Mission, I feel like his Akali play is actually quite decent. We just don't see him playing a lot of it. And this is a pretty good trend for him. You can see in this matchup, he's very confident that there really is no crowd control that can really land on him. He is going to just straight go for the Magi Soulstealer here. He's feeling super comfortable. He knows that the Wombo combo cannot be targeted at a super mobile champion like the LeBlanc. So he's just going to get max damage.
Might as well do that. Ruby, pool goes down after he gets hit by the chains, and he actually spends his own Hemo Plague as well, but he's just not doing nearly enough damage. This is not the Ruby from yesterday, because the caliber of the opponent, I suppose, or at least the way things are going down. Rift Herald popped, and the push is on the bottom side. A formidable phalanx, if you will, of J-Team members kind of holding the line in that bot side jungle, and really not letting Boom breathe for a moment.
And we're seeing Waka. Ooh!
Rest goes in. Rocky gets the serious damage there, but a couple of snips. Once again, a defensive ult from Rocky. We've seen this how many times now as the kickback comes through, and where did Alex go?
Oh my god. Hana looking like the one that should have actually went to the LPL in this situation. Really good mechanics catching Alex out. Alex even had flash for that one. He couldn't even react before Hana just took him out.
Hana's having a ball right now. This is a full-on carry Lee Sin. I feel like he could have been more aggressive than the Gore Drinker, but you know what? He's playing smart.
Yeah, I know some people like the Prowlers. It was nerfed on 11.13. I'm happy with the Gore Drinker. Don't go too crazy in this situation. But this looks like a wrap for J-Team. I really don't know how Boom Esports are going to be able to get back onto their own red side jungle. And we have that Infernal Soul coming up in, I think, less than a minute at this point.
Yeah, it looks like it's not going to be very long, and J-Team have gotten every single dragon so far. The Infernal's going to help them. Rocky stepping forward and finding the Son of Dimission, but I mean, it's fine. It's LeBlanc. What are you going to do? Your team's not even there. They are trying to get an aggressive position, muscle in, to try and contest this dragon, but unless they find that perfect combination, yeah, I don't see it going too well either, and you're starting to see the difference in gold levels and items. Pressure here. J-Team can throw their weight around. And you step out of line.
Great move from J-Team.
Oh, yeah.
If you look at the timing right here, J-Team actually get the top lane tower and finish the TP before they get the Drake.
They actually don't even want the dragon at all right now. They just want the kills, the kick, and the turn onto Ruby. Mission taking him down for a rampage kill. Meanwhile, up at the top side of this fight, Rest just barely hanging in there as Alex burning away too, cannot do anything else. Wako body blocking for his own support, his own top laner, I should say. And that might have been only one death, but it makes all the difference here for J-Team as they can start an uncontested Infernal, and that will be the Soul.
Yeah, Boom Esports just failing the timing on the objective a little bit. They had to go in early, I can understand that, because honestly they're not going to get a chance if J-Team are set up. But J-Team played that super patiently. I love what they did. They just pushed the other two silence to the max, and then caught Ruby completely out of position. Ruby was trying to find a flank or something, but Hana found him first, and that was the end of the Brush Vampire, as we so call it.
Yeah, not a very scary vampire on the scale, right? You've got your Dracula, you've got your Nosferatu. Brush Vampire, definitely on the lower side, kind of like that guy that just buys like the cheap Halloween mask and just like scares kids instead of giving them candy, you know?
Yeah, I was thinking about, Twilight, and that was probably less scary than a glittering vampire, so I'm just not so sure about Vladimir in this meta.
He's falling far down
like
the tier
such an
list.
off-ball. He definitely is. Without Phase Rush, with no Night Harvester, it's just such a weak teamfight build. You can tell that he has a lot of difficulties getting out of bad situations. He doesn't have the move speed to really keep himself safe, and that's the reason why nobody's playing Vladimir. He was very much tied to those items and tied to those runes. Without those being really prominent in the meta, seems like almost impossible to play. Essentially, this Ruby build is more of an assassin build than it actually is a standard Vladimir build.
It's obviously very early to tell in the league, but we'll have to see, depending on how this game finishes, if it goes as expected, if Ruby starts to mix things up a little bit. Meanwhile, Rest continuing to push on. Baron is called, and they honestly have enough to just start this in earnest. They don't need to bait it out. It's a huge gold advantage. They have Infernal Soul. Mission has the teleport if things were to go awry, and they're shredding it down so much, and they have so much ward coverage in that jungle. There's almost nothing Boom can do. The miracle of all miracle fights would be needed here as Rocky checks in, the teleport goes on. They actually just have Woody blocking here as Mission teleports in. They take the Baron and immediately turn the fight a little bit low. Woody is still hanging in there, though. Rocky and Pop trying to hold that line as they scatter to the winds. Flash Cone pops. They will get away, but they could have just sat in base, and it wouldn't have made a difference.
Honestly, my only anticipation for Boom Esports is just show me one Wombo combo. Like, I honestly feel like this game was kind of lost from the draft because of how hard the execution actually is for Boom. So, if you've drafted this, please at least show me once that you can pull off a Moonfall into Hemo Play. Never mind.
Goodness. Oh, Rest is like, I want to carry, let me do it. Meanwhile, Hana getting the kick onto two, and that was chef's kiss, Clement. Oh my word.
Has been destroyed.
That was disgusting. Rest in the meantime gets a 1v2 in the top lane as well. J-Team firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, this game, I think this is pretty safe to say this is about where it ends right now. Let's take a look at some of the gold, and it's exactly as you expected. Everybody but Woody is already out-golding everybody on the side of Boom Esports, and with the Baron buff, with the Soul, there's not much that Rocky and Pop can do but watch their Nexus and their health bars fall. However, Rocky's hanging in there for a moment, not long enough. That is going to be GG as J-Team will pick up a statement game here. And they just want to pad those stats a little bit more. True Shot Barrage coming in to cut down a couple of health bars, but with those Baron-empowered minions, Clement, it's only a matter of time. Under 26-30, J-Team, GG.
I want to say sorry to Hana. I want to personally apologize on broadcast because I honestly didn't believe that he had it in him. I thought this was going to be a terrible meta for Hana. His best performances were on things like the Hecarim, or he could be utility and engage, but I never expected him to be a carry in his own right and to play the early game as tight as he did this game. This was an incredible showing from the young jungler. J-Team they're kind of like the 76ers and Ben Simmons, where they tell everyone to trust the process, and then one day Hana is going to become this great mega star in the jungle. They've stuck with this jungler for so many years without really showing that much promise. But this game, I can see a glimpse of the future. I can see a glimpse of the potential.
I do like to see a plan come to fruition. And obviously in one game, there's only so much you can take away from it. Let's take a look at this replay here. I think this is where Hana just gets that beautiful two-man kick. I mean, yeah, this kind of is the play of the game for me. The flash, the two-kick, and everyone just comes in, and the jaw snap shut. Meanwhile, Rest is like, hey, let me do you one better. Let me 1v2.
Has been destroyed.
You gotta love J-Team in this game. I felt like it was such a clean execution. They knew what they wanted to do early level 1. Late invade, make sure that flashless Gwen never gets touched in the top lane, and we didn't even see a gank go there. Diana could not find time because he was so busy dealing with Hana's punches in the bottom side and all the action that he was creating. And honestly, this game from Boom Esports, I don't think the draft strategy worked. I think they had way too many scenarios where they just face-checked into the bot lane brushes for not a lot of reasons. I feel like Pop did that multiple times. We saw that from Ruby as well. And just a conceptual win, ban pick win, execution win from start to finish from J-Team.
Yeah, I really was impressed by what J-Team pulled out, especially because yesterday they looked a little lost. They looked a little scattered. They had an incredibly long game, and it felt like it was such a slog. But they had a plan in mind. It was a little experimental, but it worked out for them. And at the end of the day, I think everybody on that squad should be pretty happy about how things worked out. And I don't think anyone but Hana would be more happy with how things worked out, because that Lee Sin was just everywhere. It's like he didn't let a moment pass him by. And just an incredible carry performance out of that jungler. I would be surprised if we see anything but him as the MVP for sure.
I do want to dampen your expectations a little bit. But so far, Gwen has taken basically all the MVPs. She's 3 out of 6 MVPs yesterday.
This game, rested fine. By the way, I'm not trying to dump on rest, but like, that's so many highlight plays from the Lee Sin. Yeah, we don't get to decide it, but I am pleading. Give me the Lee Sin jungle carry MVP. But either way, I mean, that whole team was firing on cylinders. I love what Mission was able to do on the LeBlanc. He had a very quiet laning phase. He didn't get a lot of jungle attention, but he held firm against Ruby. And then all of a sudden, he just kind of opened up with a couple of kills and then just steamrolled. And then that Medjay's came in and it was like, all right, well, I guess it's GG now. There's the gold graph, by the way. You can see that moment when it just starts to get out of hand.
Yeah, we saw a lot of team fights that were just very one-sided from J-Team around the Drake. I think Boom Esports, when you're playing a Wombo combo comp, it's very necessary that you actually have a good foothold onto the Drake so you can actually pull off your flanks, get everyone on the right targets. And this game was really disappointing because they just never got a Moonfall Hemoblade. If you don't get a Moonfall Hemoblade, why are you playing this composition? It just doesn't do anything. Like, honestly, the Vladimir setup, this was a short-range LeBlanc. The build, you couldn't reach backline, and it was just a worse assassin build compared to what Mission was dishing out. So, kind of disappointed in Boom Esports. I feel like they have to go back to the drawing board. This is definitely not a composition you can run 24/7. It worked on day 1. It definitely fell flat on its face in day 2.
If there's ever a time to find out that what you've been planning just does not work, it's just too cheese, it's just too weird, first week of the season, probably not the worst time. So there's definitely a lot of time for them to try and improve, but for now, they will take the L here, and J-Team will take the W. Critical, too, for Alex. Like, I feel like he never got a chance to hit the gas pedal. Like, there was just so much blocking him, and this is a large part of why
Yes.
Hana is our MVP, and you love to see it. Look at that kill participation. He's there 84% of the time.
Really well done. I think the tracking of the enemy jungle, like you were saying, was... I just didn't expect that out of him. Usually when Hana, especially when you think about the spring playoffs, he was heavily outclassed by Gemini, and Gemini was able to just level 3 invade him and pick on Hana the entire time. But this time the tables have really switched around. Hana getting such a good showing on something like the Lee Sin as well, which is is really a reversal of his Viego performance yesterday. Like, there was a lot of criticism on how timid he was on the Viego, not willing to go and use that Heartbreaker aggressively. But this time around, we have seen Hana on something that he's more comfortable with, and doing such a huge amount of game-ending plays on top of Boom. That was perfect. That was great to watch.
it was beautiful to see. It was incredible. But we will have to ruminate on that for just a bit because we are going to break. We'll be right back with more of the PCS right after this.